Today we're going to be talking about one of the more interesting parts of a garden, conifers. There's a wide variety of examples. You can get dwarf evergreens, weeping evergreens, evergreens that fit in the smaller landscape. And one of the first examples I've got here is a weeping white spruce. The weeping white spruce is one of the more unique weeping evergreens in that it keeps the terminal straight leader all the way through its life with the lateral branches hanging down. It gives it a very natural look, but at the same time kind of an elegant look. So it can be used in several types of landscapes. Probably gets about 25, 30 foot tall with a width of about 6 to 8 feet. This particular evergreen can tolerate several types of soil, clay soils, sandier soils, good loam soil. Like most evergreens, it dislikes heavy, mucky soil. So if it's overwatered, probably won't prefer that. Can tolerate a lot of sun to partial shade, but overall very hardy for the area, probably a zone 3 to 4 plant. Another example of a great weeping evergreen for the small garden would be the weeping blue spruce. This one is very, very tolerant of Nebraska's conditions, just like blue spruce are generally. Zone 3 plant takes wind and heat and abuse of the weather very nicely. This one is exposed to the southwest hot, dry winds and the northwest cold, dry winds. So very tolerant. You can keep it about any size you want to. It doesn't keep a defined leader to it. This one is probably going on about 15 to 16 years right now old. So it has been trimmed. I've actually taken a third of this off at different times of branches coming off to one side, so you can kind of shape them somewhat. Another plant that we've got behind me here is the Siberian fir. Fairly unknown, but as you can hear in the name Siberian, it's tolerant of a very cold climate. Native to Siberia. It's very slow growing, probably only grows about 4 to 5 inches a year here. If it dislikes anything, it's probably the heat that we have, but this again is subjected to the southwest hot, dry winds at our store here and does very well. So it's a very nice dwarf conifer. This one is about 10 years old to give you an idea on the height that it gets. If you're looking for an evergreen that stays real low to the ground and kind of hugs and forms a creeping mound, the creeping blue spruce is a great addition to any garden. Forms a ground cover so it becomes a living mulch in a way down the road, which means less weeding and remulching. Keeps a nice blue color, and again just as hardy as any of the other blue spruce varieties that we use today. The dwarf Norway spruce is a very compact evergreen. It's a great replacement for the Mugo pine. It gets about 1.5 feet by 4 foot wide, tolerates shade very well. It's a variety of the Norway spruce, so again it's native to a cold region. We usually use it in sunny areas, but it can take a lot of shade as well, so very tolerant of our conditions. Unlike the bird nest spruce, it is also real resistant to spider mites, so that's another reason we switched to it. Then right next to me here I have the CAANAN fir. This is probably my favorite evergreen right now. Gets about 30 to 40 foot tall by about 12 to 15 foot wide. Great to fit into a smaller garden setting again, or off a corner of a house or a patio. Doesn't get real wide, so it fits an area very nicely. Attributes of it, very tolerant of our conditions again. It's a relative of the Fraser and balsam fir, but it tolerates our heat better than the other two. Puts on beautiful cones in early spring, or late spring, early summer, that are kind of purple, so it has a nice contrast against the green foliage. And if you break the needles, it smells just like a Christmas tree, so it has a nice fragrance to it. Again, these are just some of the ideas for some unusual or smaller evergreens for the Nebraska gardens. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more options down to look at. Just visit your local nursery or look on the websites. There's a lot of things out there to see that you may not be familiar with that do very well to our area.